Welcome back, Caddy Corner, episode 80. I'm Austin.
And I'm Caleb.
And we are back again.
Welcome.
Today's podcast is all about networking. The importance of it, maybe some how-to points. I don't know what your notes are looking like. Mine aren't really how-to points. And we're just going to talk about it for a bit because I think it's super important. Definitely is like one of the most important things that you can do whenever you're like in that 18 to 25 range.
Definitely.
So we will talk about that. We'll get into that in this podcast. So, this is Caddy Corner, the main show, audio, video, every single Friday. Knowledge bombs, information. Like I said, every Friday. That's what we do, audio and video. We also do Caddy Corner After Hours every Wednesday. Layback, kickback vibes, audio only. Check that out. It's probably what we do the best of all things that we do. Rate and review the show, and let's talk about networking. Caleb, take it away.
All right. Networking is super important. You have a definition.
Yes.
That you want to.
I do. This is a good point. So I think it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing to define.
Yeah.
And actually, like the reason why I even thought about coming up with this definition in the first place was because whenever we did our Brennan Johnson episode, he like didn't want to use the word networking. He used like another word, and I couldn't remember it off the top of my head. But it wasn't like networking, which I thought was really interesting. But it kind of goes along with this definition. And so what I have written down for the definition of networking is collaboration and conversation without friendship being the primary desired result. Basically meaning that you're talking to people not necessarily for the sake of the fun of it, which I think is an important thing to consider.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it can't happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think it's not the primary desired result is the definition that I have kind of written down for networking. Boom.
Yeah. So I just have a couple points, and then I have a couple tips, and then I have like a little closing statement thing. And so I'm just going to jump right in here. Basically, the reasons why I think that networking is so important, especially the way that I kind of took this was networking in college.
Yeah.
My first thing of why it's so important is that you get to receive training from like-minded people. So whether it's people in your major or your professors, like these people know what they're doing, most of the time, especially your professors.
Yeah.
So like one thing that I was kind of thinking about was whenever you have a professor, and he's up there talking to you, and it's like 9 a.m., and he's wearing like a Hawaiian shirt or like something stupid.
Sure.
And he's like telling you about your field of study, and you're like, come on, bro.
Right. You're just totally checked.
Yeah. But it's like this dude is here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Like this dude is here because he loves what he's talking about, and he wants to see you succeed in that. So whenever you think about it like that, then these people are really approachable, like they're not scary big bad guys who want to give you an F, like these are people who come from the field that you're studying, and they want to put their information into the next generation of people, and so whenever you think about it like that, and you just think about it like you're receiving training from these people who are like professionals in this, then it makes the biggest difference,
Totally.
And then whenever you talk to these people, and especially your classmates, or people who've been through your program previously, whenever you talk to these people, and like you said, like it doesn't have to be out of friendship, but just like introduce yourself and like make sure that they know you, and becoming well known can help you in your professional life a ton.
So much.
Because it would be the craziest thing if I go to like a company, and I'm like, I want a job here, and they're like, wait, I know you because you know this person who like works for me already.
Boom.
Like
Network.
That's the networking.
Yeah, and I have a point that goes super well with that, which is just generally speaking, people know so much stuff. Like you only know so many things ever, and everything that you've ever learned, for the most part, is through another human telling you that thing. Whether that's anybody, whether that's like your parents, your teacher, your sister, your coach, your whatever,
Yeah.
So many different people know so many different things, and like you said, in a college perspective, like you would expect your professors to know stuff and to learn stuff from them. And that is obviously how it goes, but you also learn so much from your peers, especially in a field like ours, like digital production and, video, photo, that kind of world. You learn so much from your peers, and you learn so much from like the feedback that you get from that. And so just generally speaking, just talk to people is the point that I want to attach to that. It's like people know so much. You can learn so much by just listening to people talk. People know so much stuff. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, whenever you think about how many things you know, and then like you then sift through all of those things that you know based off you taught them to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Very few.
I mean, I might
have like 6.
I think that would even be pushing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
fully by myself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've even ever learned anything completely on my own.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't know.
Yeah, I understand.
And so that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. The next point that I have is get connected with the upcoming professionals, Mm-hmm. So like for me, like I would consider these like my peers,
Totally.
If you're an underclassman, then upperclassmen are like the best dudes to talk to, because they're people who have been doing it, who know kind of the ins and outs and stuff that you can like get tips and pointers from. They're just such a great resource for like students that I think doesn't really get used.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah, it's so scary. It's so scary being an underclassman and going up to like a senior and being like, hey, I have a class with this professor next semester. Can you tell me if he's like good or
what's
not?
Up with that?
Yeah, like that's a scary thing to do. But like, I don't know, because I've always felt that way too. Like I've always felt like these people are scary and big and old. But then it's like now I'm an upperclassman, and I wouldn't even think twice if like a freshman came up to me and asked me a question.
Totally.
And so if you're an underclassman out there and you're afraid of upperclassmen, don't be.
Yeah. No need to be.
Because they're not very scary at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I just think that that's one of the best resources that you have around you always that you never even use.
Yeah. Totally. That's such a good point. Another point that I think is super important to consider, and this is just very general, is that conversation equals opportunity so often. And again, this heavily impacts and goes along with our field of study and our career progression, which is like if somebody wants photos made, but they haven't figured out who's going to take them yet, and they're like talking about that, and you can tell that they're interested, then like we could be the guy with the camera there, and they don't even like know that. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And it can be an opportunity for like somebody like us to like have professional work or create a portfolio or whatever that means. Maybe if you're in the medical field and you're having conversations with people, and like maybe you're talking to somebody random at like a coffee shop, and then like they're a nurse and they can help you get a job at this hospital and blah 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 blah. Just talking to people opens up so many doors, and it's so easy to open those doors because, kind of like you said, people are just scared to talk to people who look like they know what they're doing. It's so intimidating, and I totally get that. It's not like super easy for me to do that at all. It comes super unnatural to me, but it's such a net positive. Just have conversations with people who look like they know what they're doing, or you know what I mean? And then that just opens so many doors because now you're the guy that asked. You're interested. You care, obviously. So it's so important.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's super important. So the next 2 points that I have are kind of just like tips on how you can start networking. And the first one is just being active on campus. It's so important, whether it's a sport that you play, a club that you join, or like even like campus jobs, just surrounding yourself with people makes it easier for you to talk to people.
Totally.
The more new people that you surround yourself with, and like the longer you are exposed to like being around new people, then it just becomes so much easier to talk to new people.
Mm-hmm.
Like my dad is a great example of this. My dad, whenever I was a kid, never talked to anybody. I mean, he was super like introverted and like wouldn't go speak to anybody, but now he works a job where like he has to talk to people, and then also just like as he's gotten older, I guess. But I mean, now he doesn't go to a place without like having a conversation with like a random person or like a person that he knows. He's like always talking to somebody, and so that's just one of those things where it's like it's something that you can teach yourself how to do. You know, if you're like a super introverted person and you're like, I'm never going to be able to go out in public and like talk to somebody random, then it's like
you can get there.
Yeah, you're selling yourself short already by telling yourself that you can't do it, because you definitely can.
Totally.
You know, it's just by exposing yourself to like uncomfortable situations, it can make you so much more comfortable in uncomfortable situations.
Totally. It's so important to do that, because like, how are you supposed to ever learn how to talk to people? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you have to talk to strangers eventually.
Eventually, you're gonna have to.
Yeah. Gonna have to. This, I think, is in my opinion the most valuable thing of part of networking when it comes to people that are like us, like people that have skills that can be sold, that don't like necessarily require a job, which is that you need people to know that you're good at stuff. It's so important, right?
Yeah.
Like we've been guys with the camera for a long enough time now to where we are competent. Do you know what I mean? That's selling ourselves a bit short, but just for the sake of argument, right?
Yeah.
But if nobody knows that, then who cares? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like if you're really talented and good at basketball, but nobody knows, like you're not playing like for your school or you're not playing whatever, then who cares that you're really good at basketball?
Yeah.
So what networking can help you do with skills like that, skills that you can turn into a business, or skills that you can change the world with, or whatever. It's so important that other people know that you possess those skills, because then you can put those skills to work and make an impact or create a career for yourself or whatever. And it's so important that you do that. It's like treating your life like a business, and that is the sales aspect of that. Sell yourself. It's so important. It's the most important thing in my opinion.
Yeah, so important. Yeah. My next, I guess my last point is internships are huge whenever it comes to networking. Hands-on experiences, for one, is like a very net positive thing. But having hands-on experiences, learning from trained professionals, is just like takes it one step further. You know, like being there with a company, with these people that are like teaching you how to do the things that eventually you're going to have to learn how to do anyway, then that is so important. For one, it looks really good whenever you're applying for jobs if you have internship experience. But also just like learning the stuff from the people who are doing it is like super important, because like we've said 100 times, you know, like being around these people and like talking to these people, having conversations with these people just opens up opportunities for you, you know? So like my last like little talking point here is the more people you know, the more opportunities you can have in the future. It's just like, it's so stupidly simple, you know, but it's just the facts, you know, because like you just have to think about it. The more people that you talk to, the more doors get open for you in the future. Just like we've said, you know, if you're having a random conversation and somebody's like, yeah, I've been looking for a photographer, and you can be like, oh, well, I'm a photographer.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, oh, okay. And then you take their pictures, and then you do a really good job, and then they go tell their friends that you're a good photographer, and now you're taking pictures for the whole town. You know, it's just like if you didn't have the courage to say, oh, well, I'm a photographer, let me take pictures for you, then you wouldn't have had any of those opportunities, you know? So that's really what it's all about. And that's the whole point of networking. It's just like getting yourself out there, selling yourself, talking to people, just to open doors for you. That's all it's about.
Yeah, and that's one of the last point that I have too goes along really well with that, which is like shadowing and internships. And the reason why I think it's super important is because you can learn stuff you can't learn online, which is like the systems. Like how do I take somebody's photos, edit them, and then send them back to them at pace? How do I do that? Photography company, teach me as I'm your intern. Yeah. That's something that you can't look up. You know what I mean? Like, sure you can, but it's not intuitive. It doesn't make sense. You want to watch somebody do that in real life. What does their system look like? How many days does it take? Things like that. Those are things, and that exists in all kinds of jobs. What does an actual 12-hour shift as a nurse look like? You can't look that up. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure you can, and you can get some kind of perspective, but it's completely different whenever you're actually there physically. So it's super important, and that to me is the value of internships and shadowing and whatever situation that you're in when it comes to that kind of thing. You can learn what it is actually like and what it actually is, rather than somebody who hates being a nurse going on YouTube and ripping the career field, or somebody who loves being a nurse going on there and just gassing it. So you can actually see for yourself. I think that's super valuable. Yeah. And on top of that too, like, you meet people, and like everything that you said, doors open, friends are made. You know what I'm saying? Next thing you know, you're taking everybody's pictures.
Yeah, and yeah, it's like, it's a weird thing, because it's almost like you're being selfish, because it's like, okay, I'm gonna talk to this person so that I can take their photos, and then like eventually take advantage of this like relationship. But
it's so important, I think, to understand that from the beginning.
Yeah, I know, because exactly like you said, the goal of this is not to make friends. The goal of this is for you to become successful in what you're trying to do. And the only way that you can become successful in what you're trying to do is to like do the work, and you can't get the work if you don't talk to people.
Yeah, and it's so important to consider as well that it is so hard to get where you're trying to be in any kind of career field, any kind of career pursuit, completely by yourself. It is so hard. I would say it's almost impossible.
Almost. Yeah.
So eventually, like, you're gonna have conversations with people. You're gonna have to have those like weird conversations where it's like, hey, I just took your photos. Like, where's my paycheck? You know what I mean? Like, you're gonna have to have those weird conversations, and those awkward conversations and whatever. Eventually, anyways, because you're gonna have a business partner. You're gonna have a boss. You're gonna have whatever. So it's so important that you talk to people, because it's like maybe for real impossible to get where you're trying to get to, in most cases, completely by yourself. So hard.
Yeah.
So insanely, stupidly hard. Crazy. Caddy Corner episode 80, ladies and gentlemen.
Boom.
I mean, what a show.
Yeah.
I mean, that went really well.
I think so.
We were skeptical at the beginning of this, boys.
Yeah, I did not love this topic at all.
We were skeptical about this. I think it turned out pretty good. Yeah, if you take anything from it, just talk to people. Just talk to people.
Yeah. They're
interesting. You learn stuff. Even if it's like useless, like trivia night information, at least you learn something. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, Caddy Corner episode 80. This is kind of what the main show's like usually. Knowledge bombs every Friday, audio and video. Check out Caddy Corner After Hours. We were recording that in like 2 seconds, where we talk about what everyone talk about for as long as we want to talk about it. Audio only. I'm Austin. He's Caleb. We'll see you all next week. Peace.